Hey, I'm Daniel Pandolf, the CEO of Ministry Assistant Services. And if you're looking to hire a virtual assistant for your church or for your ministry or nonprofit, do not go any further than this video. I'm going to cover some questions that you need to be asking before you even decide to hire. The very first thing you need to consider when hiring a virtual assistant is if you want to go through a website like Fiverr, or if you want to go through an agency, or if you want to hire an individual. I'm going to cover these things real quickly. The very first option is to go to a place like Fiverr. When you go to Fiverr, you can find people who have reviews already established on their virtual assistant skills and abilities. It has a really great search function, and it allows you to find somebody who oftentimes is able to work at a very affordable rate for you. So that's the very first option. Now, there are some downsides to hiring somebody directly from Fiverr. First of all, even with the reviews, it's possible that you're not going to find somebody with your exact core values, or if you find somebody with your values, you're still not entirely sure, are they the right person? Have they been vetted? What's their skill set? The second option is to obviously look for individuals that you can hire by simply Googling virtual assistants for hire. And you can find the occasional person who set up their own website and who is advertising their virtual assistant skills. Now, most of these people are fine. They're great. And they might even be amazing virtual assistants. Now, the problem is you might find that they're going to charge a little bit higher premium cost, or that because they're dealing with so many different clients that they do not necessarily have time to work just for you. One final problem, and this is the same problem that those who are on Fiverr also have, is that if that virtual assistant goes down, who's going to cover for them? Because you are hiring just that particular individual. And so there's a little bit of a danger with hiring somebody from Fiverr or hiring on Google who's just working as an individual. The third option is to hire an agency. Now, there's two different types of agencies. There's those agencies who specialize in hiring out a virtual assistant to you, and they typically hire from overseas. This is good because you can find virtual assistants who are willing to work for very, very little wages. A lot of times these are virtual assistants who come from either India or the Philippines, and they can charge as little as $10 an hour. That's absolutely phenomenally cheap. Now, there are some complications, obviously, hiring an agency that specializes in hiring people from overseas. First of all, there's the English barrier. This isn't necessarily the case for every virtual assistant, but it can happen where you find somebody who is not as proficient in English. And for issues like church communication, that can be a really big deal. The second issue is that a lot of times you do not have an option to hire somebody who shares your same belief system. So while you're getting a virtual assistant at premium price, or a very affordable price, I should say, you are not necessarily having somebody who aligns with the values of your ministry. The other option is to go with an agency that specializes in hiring within the US. There's a lot of phenomenal agencies out there, but they can range in price. Some of the more expensive agencies out there can charge upwards of 50, 60, 70, 80 to even more per hour. Others are going to charge you per task. And so if you are somebody who's sitting there saying, well, how much does it cost to do a church newsletter? What they're going to do is they're going to quote you a price for that church newsletter. And other agencies are going to charge you per hour. One of the perks of hiring an agency, by the way, is that you have an entire crew of individuals that can step in at a moment's notice to take in or take off those tasks. Now, that's not always the case. Some agencies, I will mention, actually silo out their individuals or their people, so that if you hire one virtual assistant, you're just getting that virtual assistant. Again, there's a lot of perks of also going through an agency, not only getting an agency backing, but you also are assuming that this agency has vetted these people properly and that they can vouch for the quality of their work. Also, most agencies are really, really comfortable being able to swap somebody out if a virtual assistant is just not working for you. Again, you're going to pay a little bit more for these services as well, though, because the agency essentially functions as a broker. I've thought a lot about how is it that we can help churches be able to afford virtual assistant services while getting the best of everything that a church needs. And so what I did was I started Ministry Assistant Services along with my wife. We are an agency, but we function differently than any other agency that you're going to find because we use what's called a project manager-based model. What this means is that when you come to us and you contract with us, we give you a project manager, not just a virtual assistant. Underneath this project manager is an entire team of virtual assistants. That way, the project manager is going to do the bulk of the work, but there's going to be virtual assistants who can step in at a moment's notice and take tasks that maybe the project manager isn't as proficient in. This is one of the other perks about using this kind of model. You're not just stuck with the skill set of one virtual assistant. You have a bunch of team members coming together and working together, but for one low cost. We don't charge per task either. We charge per hour. We found that long term, this is actually a lot more affordable for churches, regardless of the size that they're at. 1 to 2, 3 hours a week can get you a lot of work done because we have a team that is highly efficient. And so that's kind of the way my agency works within the framework of the larger agencies. Now, the other perk is we only hire believers, Christians, people who are dedicated and committed to the local church. This way, you know, and when you're working with us, that this is a team who is committed to working with the local church and is working and dedicated to seeing the gospel spread through their work. And so that's one of the other perks of using a virtual assistant and hiring a virtual assistant agency, and in particular, hiring ministry assistant services. So hopefully that's helpful as you're trying to figure out and start sorting through all the options that are out there and available to you. If you're interested in working with us, I would love for you to click the link in the description below and then submit an inquiry, and I'll get back to you with a quick 10 to 20 minute conversation to see how we might be able to help you out. And we'll get started as quickly as next week. We can really get started fast. And I look forward to talking with you soon. Have a blessed day.